Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how you can use multiple if statements in your program. So what we're going to do in this video is compute the body mass index of a person. We're going to obtain the height and weight from the user and then calculate their BMI. And then once we've done that, we're going to use multiple Boolean expressions to print out a message to the user. And the message that we print will depend on the result of our calculation. So over in Eclipse, I've created a new project called Compute BMI, and we're just going to add a class to this, which is also going to be called Compute BMI. And we'll get Eclipse to create a main method for us. Now, because we're obtaining input from the user, we need to import scanner. So import java.util.scanner. All right. And the first thing we're going to do in our main method is actually create a scanner. So scanner input equals new scanner. And we're reading from system.in. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is get the weight from the user. So prompt user to enter weight in pounds. So print out a message to the user dot print enter weight in pounds. Alright, and then we'll read this in and store it as a double. So double weight equals input dot next double. We're going to do the exact same thing now for the height. So I'm just going to cheat and copy and paste this code. Now, and we need to make a couple of changes. So enter height in inches. Alright, and this is going to be height. Alright, so now that we've done that, we need to do a conversion, because the body mass index, you calculate that using them in metric units. So we need the weight in kilograms and we need the height in meters. So we're going to have some constants here. So final double kilograms per pound. And that is going to that actually equals 0.45359237. So this is the scaling factor to convert from pounds to kilograms. And final double meters per inch is going to equal 0.0254. All right. Oh, need a semicolon. So we're getting the height in inches and the weight in pounds, and then we've got these conversion factors to convert it into metric. So how do we compute the BMI? Well, BMI simply looks like this. BMI equals weight divided by height multiplied by height. So this is how we calculate the body mass index of a person. And remember that weight has to be in kilograms and height has to be in meters. So let's do this in code now. It should be fairly simple. All right. First thing we're going to do, actually I'll put a comment in here. First thing we're going to do is convert the weight and height that the user enters into metric. So double weight in kilograms equals weight multiplied by kilograms per pound. I just press Control Space there to make the autocomplete pop up. And let's maximize this to make it a bit easier to see. So double height in meters equals height multiplied by meters per inch. Okay, now we can calculate the BMI. Double BMI equals weight in kilograms divided by, and now we're going to have parentheses in here, height in meters multiplied by height in meters. And again, Control Space in Eclipse makes life a lot easier because you can just get that autocomplete thing popping up. So now we've calculated their BMI. The next step, we want to print out a message, and the message is going to depend on what the BMI was. So how we're going to do this is, if you remember, an if statement looks like this. We have a condition in here, and if it's true, we execute one block of code, and if it's false, we skip and then join up later. So like that. What we want to do in this example is, if it's false, we're going to have another expression. So what it will look like is something like this. Oh, it's not exactly very neat, but it'll do. So we're going to have a condition here, and I'm going to put the true on the left here. So this is true. Now, if it's false, we want to have another condition. And if that's true, we do something else. And if it's false, we come down here. And then we can keep going like this if we wanted to. Have more and more expressions that each evaluate to true or false. And each one executes a different code block. So here's a block of code. Here's a block of code. Here's a block of code. And then finally, if the last one is also false, we're just going to execute something as well. And then these all meet up at the end. I apologize for my not entirely neat diagrams. So that's the idea of what we want to do. We're going to have a conditionals here. Depending on what the BMI was, we're going to print out a different block, a different message to the user. So how do we do this in Java? Well, we know the first way. It's easy. We have a if statement and then the condition. So this is going to be if BMI is less than 16. We're going to print out system.out.println. You are seriously underweight. Okay, actually what we'll do before this is actually print out what the BMI was. I forgot that. And the way we're going to do that is with printf. So system.out.printf. This stands for print formatted text. So what we're going to have here is a string. Your BMI is, and now we're going to have something kind of interesting. We're going to have a %, 5.2 F, and then a new line character. And then the args, we're going to have BMI. Now, what does this mean? Well, this is a way of printing out numbers and things to the console without having to do string concatenation. And it formats the number depending on what it was. So what this is saying is F stands for floating point number, means we have a floating point number. And it's going to be, we're going to print up to 5 digits, and then a decimal place, and then 2 decimal places. So it's a way of formatting the output of this BMI, which could be any number because it's a float, so that it looks nice when printed. So printf is really useful for that kind of thing. And then printf doesn't automatically add a new line, so we have to do that ourselves. So got a bit sidetracked there, but that's okay. So now we've got our first condition, if BMI is less than 16. But how do we do these alternatives? Well, it's actually really easy. We just have else if then another condition. So BMI less than 18, we're going to print out a different message. Now I'm just going to, no, I won't. System.out.println, you are underweight. Okay. And then we can have as many of these else ifs if we want, depending on how many conditions we have. So I'm just going to copy and paste this code. Now the next one's going to be 24. If it's if it's between 18 and 24, we're going to print out you are normal weight. And a couple more. So if it's less than 29, so between 25 and 29, we're going to say you are overweight. Again, now if it's less than 35, we're going to say you are seriously overweight. And then for this final one, the final alternative, we don't have to have another condition here because it's, okay, if none of these are true, just do something else. So that's what that is. So if this is true, do this, else, or otherwise, if this is true, do this, otherwise, if this is true, do this, otherwise, just do print something else. So the way we do that is just with else, no condition. System.out.println, you are gravely overweight. Now I should point out, because I haven't done this before, but if you know that you're only going to have one statement after a conditional, like an if, you don't need to put the braces like this. Both ways work fine, but if you don't put the braces in, it means you can only have one line of code in this block. So if we did something else, this wouldn't, so we had another print line in here. This wouldn't work because only this line of code belongs to this expression. So if it's something to keep in mind, if you know you're only going to have one line of code, you can ignore and not worry about putting in the braces. But if you aren't, then you have to put them in. If there's going to be more than one block of code, you have to put them in. Okay, so let's test this now. So run as Java application. Oh, I need to bring this back. Alright, enter weight in pounds. Now what we're going to enter is 146. So 146 pounds. And the height is going to be 70 inches. Which means it calculates it and your BMI is 20.95. And you can see that it printed out you are normal weight. So we only got this expression because this was the only one that was true. Well, sorry, these would have been true. But because it's found one, it doesn't continue going down to the next ones. So the BMI was 20. The first condition that evaluated to true was this one. So that's what we printed. And then we break out of this block. We don't execute the others. That's kind of important. So these, you can think of these as alternatives, but only one of them will get executed, if any. And then else, if nothing else is true. Okay, so that's it for this. So what we did in this video is we computed the body mass index of a person. We used if and then some expression to conditionally execute code, and then we used else if and then another expression to provide alternative code paths. Finally, we used else to provide a default if none of the expressions that we had were true. So that's it for this video. Thanks.